coming out, emerging, if you like, from COVID. And I asked Michelle Ansel Basha Shumskaher from Capita, Marina from Octopus, Dr. Paul Phillips, the principal from Western College, and Fleur Hicks, who many of you may have just heard from 140, founder and managing director, and Luke from Integrity Cleaning, who's also a global ambassador for positivity for Awards International. So thank you for offering to be the panel this afternoon. The way it's going to work is I'm going to field questions in the chat, please. I don't think we'll have a unmute free-for-all just now. I'll field some questions for the panel about the future, about emerging from our situation. We've already had somebody talk about long-term planning versus short-term planning. If you have any thoughts about that, ask one of our panel. If you have any thoughts about anything they can do from their sessions to help you now, if you want to pick up on that, ask the panel or ask me through the chat, and I will facilitate the discussion, and we'll be done at 14:35. Okay, so let me just give you a few moments to think of any questions you have. Let me kick off with one. I will ask a question, but I won't ask the whole panel. I will ask one or two people on the panel to ask the question. So one of the questions that I was asked before was actually about this long-term thing. So can I ask the panel, is it possible right now to think about strategy right now? Can we think more than a few weeks ahead? And was anybody who would like to volunteer to take that question? If not, then, oh, yeah, okay, so Paul, Dr. Paul Phillips, CBE. You hate me, don't you, for keep saying that? Okay.
I think there's definitely a way in which we can start planning. I think the digital agenda, the move to a virtual form of business is taking off at a massive stake. Work I'm doing with multinational companies, GKN, Rolls-Royce, etc., they're ready to embrace this virtual environment. And without doubt, the plans, certainly for the next 6 months working with these companies, is what can we do virtually, and how can we, I suppose, impact the future skills agenda in this country. So I'm definitely seeing this happening. And I suppose unless we see a sort of COVID antidote sort of appearing, vaccine on the agenda, then this is going to have some longevity, I think. The other thing I would say is that irrespective, COVID has moved so many businesses up that digital ladder.
Very interesting thoughts, Paul. And Michelle would like to come in as well. Michelle Ansel.
Yeah, I think, you know, we're talking to obviously huge amounts of business leaders, and I think you've absolutely got to strategize where you want to be for the future. Otherwise, you're just going to stand still and you'll constantly be reacting to what's happening. I mean, we've all been business, as Paul said, he's quite right. A lot of businesses have been thrust forward in a lot of plans which were maybe nice to have, and they're now must have. But what they've got to do is they've got to look a year from now, 3, 5 years now, and decide what they want to be, and then work back in making that happen. But if you don't set that strategy and that vision, then ultimately you will just be on catch up all the time, and businesses just can't afford to be in that situation. Grasp it, take the opportunity. We're all in this new norm, the new world. Go there and succeed, strive, be the best you can.
Great. Okay, that's very helpful, Michelle.
I'd probably just add as well,
Marina,
if that's okay.
Of course, yes, please do.
Yes, hello. I think this is a really good opportunity when we are looking at strategy to consider our impact on the environment. There's a lot of discussion around a green recovery at the moment, and how we kind of go about our day and looking at public transport and investing in areas of renewable energy and things like that. And I think this is a brilliant opportunity for us to kind of check in on our strategy and make sure that it's got maybe more of a sustainability focus than it had before as well.
Excellent point. And I think listening to Paul again earlier on talking about the changes that are taking place at Western and the kind of people they're working with was a lot more inspiring than Rishi Sunak's speech yesterday. I tell you about the future of Great Britain. So you could tell us a bit about that if you want, Paul.
Yeah, I think from our perspective, we've had to look at a range of options. Coming on about that sustainability, etc. We've had a huge issue in terms of mental health of employees, indeed our learners, our apprenticeships from industry, and we've had to bring in solutions. We've had to go out and work in a very different way, mainly online, with major training schemes, and above all, I suppose we've had to take the view we don't do anything off the shelf now. Everything is bespoke to individual need.
Great. Okay, so we have a question coming from Naeem. He hasn't told me what it is, but I'm just going to unmute him anyway. He's unmuted. Naeem, fire away. Sir.
Yeah, thanks. I was just going to say to what the lady said before, whose name escapes me. I think it's
Marina?
a really good time. Marina, yes, I did listen to her pitch before. Sorry, Marina. I think it's a really good time because the world has taken a pause. And if you want to really push new initiatives around mental health, around green initiatives, I think people are actually finally listening. 6 months ago, people were just so focused on, we're going too fast, we can't slow down to think. I think it's a really good time to bring those discussions back to the table.
Great, thank you, Naeem. This is a panel of really senior business people who have got serious depth and experience. So one of the questions which I was asked was also about trust with our employees, particularly now. There's a very different game being going on, with people working from home a great deal, a very different relationship with our employees. So what do we have to do to maintain trust with our employees going, I hate this phrase, but in the future, okay, over the next 3-6 months? What's changed? Okay, there are seem to be a lot of opportunities for trust to be undermined, a lot of job losses, a lot of job changes, a lot of personal circumstances, illness and sickness. So could I have a volunteer to take that on the nose to start with, please?
Yeah, I'd love to comment on that if that's okay.
Who's that?
It's Fleur, sorry.
Hello, Fleur. Yes, please, fire away. And Maria, are all of the panelists unmuted if they wish?
Yes,
Yeah.
they can.
So Fleur, please carry on. Yeah.
No, perfect. So, I think weirdly, I would reposition the question very slightly. I think that everybody has, in a very accelerated fashion, come to terms with any objections they might have had regards trust, and the deliverability of work has become manifest over the past 3 to 4 months. And I don't think that anybody can really deny that people are as engaged, if not more so, than they were before, across many, many sectors. My consideration actually is what happens in the next year or two, because there is nothing like being in a room with people in order to learn from other people. So whilst we are managing and coping very well now, how does that impact future employees, new recruits, and how you learn on the job, essentially, and those little nuances and things that you pick up? And so perhaps it's not so much an answer to a question, but to repose a question, because I don't see how that can happen myself. Maybe some of my other panelists have some ideas about that.
Yeah, I'd like to speak on that, Fleur, a bit, because it is a really good point. And I think, as you've said, the next 12 months are going to be a real eye-opener for some businesses, because we're in a bit of a bubble at the moment. This engagement, this high productivity, high performance, it isn't going to last when we get to business as normal. And I think a lot of businesses and business leaders need to look at how their management, their team, the leaders, do they have the emotional intelligence that's going to be able to engage and sort of motivate people working from home when we move out of this situation? But you raise a really good point, and that's going back to what I do in terms of companies need to just look at their recruitment and onboarding strategy and rip it up and start again. Because if we're going to use and have remote workers and working from home flexible workers, you cannot recruit people the traditional way. You do have to engage them completely differently. They need to be involved with more team members. You need mentors. You need a more clearer culture, vision, purpose, and you sort of need a sort of I suppose a guidebook. If you've got a company, a corporate vision, you need a sort of gospel book, really, of values that people can live and breathe when they're not in an office all of the time. And this is going to be really, really important, I think, moving forwards.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Yeah, thank you, Fleur, for reframing my question.
Sorry.
But that's okay. But I think it was a very constructive response, and so I welcome that. Now, Luke, you've been wanting to join in. Luke, say something. So, would you?
Hi guys.
Yeah.
1 2 1 2.
Please, 1 2 1 2. Calling Luke.
1 2 3.
Yeah. So. Okay. Yeah, in response to what do you...
So the question is, how can we engage, build the trust of those?
Well, that was my question, but Fleur has reframed it.
So the way that I've worked out to get people to work best for you, irrespective of what you pay them, is that, or should I say, irrespective of what sort of package they're on, is actually do they respect you? And in order for them to respect you, you need to respect them and show them respect. That comes in the form of many ways. One of them is, ironically, it goes back to pay, which is trying to avoid the minimum wage, because I think the minimum wage suggests that you value them the minimum amount that you can get away with. Now, I'm in the cleaning industry. I've obviously got cleaners that work for me. I could get away with paying them £8, whatever it is. I don't really know what it is because it doesn't matter. I'm not going that low. The lowest I pay my guys is £12 an hour. Some I pay £15.
Have you, Luke, if I can just interject there, have you found though with your workforce? I mean, you've had a lot of disruption, I think. And have you found that, the bond of trust that you have with them has strengthened, as Fleur said, or
yes,
and their loyalty has increased, or do you find that there have been some risks to your bond of trust?
Well, the trust has already
dealt with those things.
So I have, in a sense, that they've reciprocated my kindness over the last 2 years because they've given me priority as I needed them. So that's been great. Yeah,
well, that's very good. I mean, that's been apparent as well.
Yeah, that's right. So that meant that, when lockdown came, I worked double my effort, 16 hours a day, 100 hours a week. And I really got the business ready to prepare for unlocking as soon as we could.
Yeah.
And
you've gone back to working now with people physically on site. Is that right?
Yeah. So we basically.
So Fleur's question, which was about people being able to learn from you when working side by side with them, is the bit that's missing from being remote. I don't know.
So people do need to see you where they can. I mean, look, I go to a site and I visit them, make sure they see that I, talk and find out what's important to them. Yeah, you involve them, you ask them their opinions and see what's important to them, how they can do their job better. But like I say, if you pay someone a reasonable amount, that helps, because like in the service industry, someone has a choice of, do they clean slow or fast? Do they do this, or do they do this regularly? And obviously, the faster you can get them to work, the better it is, because you can get the job done better, and your clients are better off. But ultimately, I think if you show them respect, they're more happy, more likely to show you shortcuts on how they can achieve their job better and quicker. And you do need a good solid force moving forwards. As a result, we managed to book more work in May than we did the whole of last year. But
well, that's good news. That's definitely got to be good news.
The opportunities are massive this year.
Yeah,
they're not those people who aren't willing to pivot and aren't willing to obviously be progressive in things, but they really are huge, because ultimately the business is still out there. It's just moved. The money's still out there. It's just moved. You just now got to move with it.
Your positivity is shining through. So I have one question, which I'm going to ask all of the panel, which is that have there been any, can you think of a silver lining? Has there been any silver linings in this situation? And what's been one of the biggest ones for you? Could I start with Luke? Go ahead. Go on, since you were speaking.
Okay. Well, there's loads of positives that have come out of it. One thing is you've got lots of your competition. They now don't believe in themselves. That is fantastic. I'm sorry to say. They've now lost their confidence and their mojo. They've lost their clients. They've lost their routines. So the sooner you can get your routines back, the sooner you can build your confidence up, you now got one up on the people who you thought you couldn't chase for years, because ultimately they're falling all over themselves. They're concerned, they're complaining, they're moaning.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So that's a certain mindset, isn't it? So can I ask Basha next? Would you like to? Could you think of something there?
I love the fact that when you're on these calls or you're on these Zoom calls, that any minute now, not with this lovely background, by the way, but any minute now, my door could open here to my office and my kids could run in saying, "Mummy, can you help me with writing something up about such and such, which I have no clue about?" So I like the fact that I'm watching other people and that happens to them too, that this world of having children and working is working together really well, actually. Rather than, many moons ago, you would have to, sat in a meeting and I never did this, by the way, but you'd have to, say, I've got to pick up the kids. And it's the normality that everything is working together, and our home lives are, are very much merging with our work lives, which is a normal thing, right? So that I found fantastic. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much.
I'd love to add on to that, actually. I had a very similar experience just today when I was doing one of our presentations, and my mother, because I'm currently with my parents, was outside directly in my view of vision doing an exercise class, star jumps up and down, incredibly distracting, but actually quite funny. And I do think that, as Paul mentioned, there has been, I think it was Paul, obviously people have been struggling with mental health, and it has been a very stressful time, especially people living together and on top of each other. But a kind of contrary to that, I do think that lots of people in my team, one of whom is a self-professed introvert and one of whom suffers from a variety of illnesses, this time has actually been really beneficial for both of them, and I'm sure a few others. I said, because sort of social life begins to start up again, and I said to one of these people, the introvert, I was like, God, I'm exhausted. I had 2 social occasions today and I feel emotionally drained. And she said, that's how I feel every day in the office. And that was a really interesting moment for me, because it's so much, she has found it so rewarding working from home. And then my colleague with a few illnesses has really benefited from not getting up that extra hour every day, going on public transport. Her health is far better, and both of those people will not be coming back full time to the office. They'll be working from home a lot more because their life is better as a result.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you, Marina. It will change so many lives, I think. People talk about companies actually shutting offices wholesale. I don't know how true that is, but it's an interesting thought, and obviously the impact on our environment would be very positive.
I'd just like to say, Marina, that's absolutely fantastic, and I totally go with that. Gratitude is what it's produced a lot of. Appreciation for even the fact that you've got a good internet signal, to the fact that someone's taken themselves off mute. You're now thankful about the little things, not getting so wound up about how to unblock the photocopier, or or worrying about other things. And I think people are the other thing it's done is it's brought people together, because ultimately people are now realizing, look, we can't do this alone. We need to see how we can blend with each other and how we can use each other's strengths. And there's a lot of I think there's a lot of collaboration going on, and more to come, because that's how businesses are really going to get far.
Well said. Very good. Fleur, did you have a silver lining?
No, I absolutely. I mean, I would echo that, really. I think for me, the benefits have been twofold. The silver linings have been twofold. The first one being personal, and Basha can probably relate to this. Working in finance, an appreciation now that you're a person, particularly a mother, and that you have. You can now strike a work-life balance is incredibly important, and I think it's leveled people quite a lot, particularly in a very, very male-dominated industry. And then from a professional perspective, actually, I mean, fairly selfishly, we work in data. So the fact that digital data is just in such high demand now, that's certainly been our professional silver lining, for sure. An appreciation that can contribute so much to business operations and commercial modelling is something that's really been great for us.
So you're busier than ever, Fleur?
Yeah, at the moment, yeah.
And are people paying, or do they want it all for free?
Oh, well, they try and get it for free. They always have. No, they
but
are.
in demand and not for free is the place to be.
Exactly. So yeah, it's one of those unanticipated silver linings for us. But
well, there you go, and that really is a silver lining.
Yeah.
So, well, congratulations for being so visionary. Okay, so Paul, did I ask you about silver linings? I know you're full of good stories anyway, but was there one silver lining for yourself?
I suppose there's two issues. I've got 1,200 staff, and I feel I know them all really well. Which I didn't when I started, and I've been trying to move the business to a digital format for at least 2 years, and in 12 weeks we're there. So it's been really positive for me in terms of everybody in the organization adapting to the digital environment, with really a volition for success, and also creating a sort of virtual drop-in box in the system so I can communicate with everyone and get ideas emerging from every level of the company.
Great. Okay, that's fantastic. I mean, this is starting to sound like it was all good news. But I think Michelle, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, there's been so many for us. There hasn't just been one really, but I think, you know, on Basha's point, I think where we've got to, it's a much deeper level communication and understanding of our colleagues, and you know, we're inviting people into our homes, aren't we? And the communication and the contact and the personalities, and we've just gone to a whole different level. But for us, it was a platform for change, you know, and it gave us the opportunity to, as Luke did, really, we gave our business disappeared overnight. It came back very quickly just after Easter, but it did give us that period of time to reflect and say, well, what do we want? Where do we want to be? Do we want to carry on doing what we've always done? And we've really sort of changed how we've approached the market and what we're doing and the solutions that we're offering, and we've tried to innovate. And I think, you know, when I look back in sort of 12 months, 18 months, 2 or 3 years time, I'll actually thank the pandemic, because I think without it we would have carried on doing what we'd have always done, which was no bad thing. But I think this will certainly put us on a different platform, and we'll do much better than we would have without it.
I concur. I mean, that sounded a little bit like something I've heard someone else say then, Luke, sort of talking about being thankful for even bad news. But from my point of view, I'd like to share a similar story, Michelle and fellow panelists, which is that although this has had a monumental impact on Awards International's revenue, my company, my staff and my team have really been amazing. We've performed like we've never performed before. And I've learned things about my team, the people in the team, that I didn't know about them, you know, talent and skills. And we've kind of had to let go of some of the things which, you know, maybe we wouldn't do before. We'd go more cautiously. We've let go of some of those things. And we've got Vuk, a 25-year-old guy just graduated from university. He's hosting the Gulf Customer Experience Awards, or the International Customer Experience Awards webinar or meeting, networking meeting for 60 international customer experience awards. He's hosting it. And so he's building his profile, and that's an amazing thing for him to be doing. And the same is true for Anna and, you know, the team that's here today. So, and the same is true for my managers. You know, we've really pulled together as a team. We know much more about each other, actually, professionally, than we did before. And I've been sort of wondering what I've been doing, you know, because we're traveling less. I'm getting serious withdrawal, and I'm looking at the sky and we're seeing planes and I want to get on it, but I'm not traveling anymore. So I'm spending much more time thinking about the people and thinking about my business. So there are these things. So thank you to the panel. We have 5 more minutes. If anybody has anything just to contribute or any questions for each other and anyone wants to answer, please, let's hear from you. Okay.
What about something in response to the announcements yesterday for the sort of mini budget.
What about it, Luke?
You want my opinion?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Well, I was on LBC last night actually talking about it. And,
Not again.
Again, about 2 or 3 times a week. So, yeah, and that was a question. And my question was, very good. Congratulations, good job. However, they've missed out one important industry, and that's entrepreneurs and enterprise. Because ultimately, this country, the UK, has the equivalent of Germany, France, and Spain combined. And if this country is going to get out of this hole, it's going to be because of our strength of entrepreneurship. And
you mean we have as many entrepreneurs as Germany, France, and Spain combined?
We have more.
Yeah.
You see, that's how, and so that's going to generate the jobs, the ideas. But the thing is, 80% of countries fail in the first 18 months. Why is that? It's usually because of cash flow or lack of experience of how to look after cash flow. So if I was Sunak, I would have said, right, free accountants for all entrepreneurs or something like that, and then you get some good people looking after them, not just looking after their own books and going out of.
I personally I wouldn't be quite so kind as you. I thought it was fairly terrible announcement, and I don't think it's going to do much to help many people at all. It's certainly not as bold as I was expecting, and as bold as I think we need to be. I don't know if anybody else wants to share their opinion.
Yeah, someone else. Michelle, I saw you nodding.
I don't like to get involved in the politics too much. But
well, it's not politics. It's funding of our economy.
In terms of the entrepreneurship, I absolutely agree. Business without business, and I mean, Britain is absolutely fantastic at what we do, isn't it? We need to create jobs, we need to create innovation, we need to sort of support that, especially with people if they are being made redundant. What you normally see in a recession is you'll get like green shoots, new startups, and disruptors come from the redundancy situations, and that's what we need. But we need money, we need funding, and as you quite rightly said, to help support those businesses, good accounting, because as you say, most do fail within 12 to 18 months, and it's a travesty, isn't it?
Yeah. And the other thing is, of course, when it comes to cash flow, some sort of mechanism which enables them to get paid quickly, because when you're a new business, you only take on a big order, a big job, then you've now got to, you got to wait sort of 45 days for your money. That can put you out of business if you're. I
mean, some of the big corporates, if you land one of those, you could be waiting 6 months, 90 days, 6 months.
So that's the sort of things they should be helping on as well.
Yeah.
Cool. Good ideas.
I'm going to say the other way. I'm going to say, yes, we can't tick every box, but I'm really pleasantly surprised at how people have come together as a nation, supporting the NHS and everything else.
Yes.
But I also think the government payouts, I think, have been a lot better than I expected.
I would concur with that, Naeem, but I thought that the follow-up wasn't quite so strong. I think that the furlough and the grants has saved a lot of businesses. Simple as that.
Yeah, I don't think it is free lunch, because as the Chancellor just said, he's not ruling out raising the tax. Yeah. Which I don't think is fair to say, I give you the money first and then I'll tax you, so I get the money back.
We're going to have to get it back somehow. So anybody else want to come in there? We have 2 minutes left. Any Jessica, Jane, Michelle? Michelle has made a statement in the chat, actually. Oh, it's private. May I read it out, Michelle? Can you nod? I can't see you. Okay. It is a question. A COVID conundrum. How come the Amazon man always knows we're on a Zoom call when they knock on the door? Have they got tracking devices that we do not know about? Tech everywhere. Michelle, Western College, thank you, Neil, and the team for a great event.
That's a nice inclusion with school children. I think that's the thing. The second you start a Zoom call, a child will come into the room and the doorbell will go. It's a fact.
Well, yeah, I mean, they also have their Echo device in your house. I've just got a couple of Apple speakers, and I'm trying to get them to respond to me. I keep saying, Siri, basic roll isn't going to come on now.
One skill I've learned is...
But they're also spying on you in your home, that's what they say. But anyway, yes, Luke, carry on.
One skill I've learned is the ability to throw a pen without the person on the other end of Zoom realising, my children, to say, be quiet.
Well, that's very pleasant. I understand you could get arrested for that, Luke, but that's
it goes onto the floor. It's a sign to say, hush.
Okay. Anybody else got anything to say? If not, thank you very much. Thank you to all the presenters once again. And we will be having a award ceremony starting at what time, Maria?
The ceremony starts. Let me just check.
I have to go and.
We need to share it like video on with our social media contacts.
So from Rowan, thank you to everyone. You've got the time on the next slide, by the way, Maria. If you just put it to the next slide.
Not sure it's on the next slide. Yes, it's 3:30.
3:30. So if you're going to join us in the award ceremony, it's going to be fantastic. It's going to be just like being at the real event, except you're going to have to bring your own booze. So